Hello, and welcome to Carbonwhy, the channel that's catered to those who are avid lifelong learners. My channel explores the how, what, where, why the world works the way it does. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button so that you can get notified of my next video. In this week's episode, we find out why the world is running out of sand. Sand is just used for sandcastles, right? Well, that couldn't be any further from the truth. Sand is a hot commodity, like copper, gold and oil. You might not know it, but everything is made of sand. And even though sand is found in nearly every country on Earth, we might actually be running out of it. Not many of us know this, but sand mining is the largest mining industry in the world. And it comes second to water as the most consumed raw material in the world. And yet, sand mining remains largely unregulated and unknown. So, if sand is so important and we're practically running out of it, why isn't there any monitoring or regulating? Sand is used a lot in construction, chemical production, water filtration, fracking and glass. All around you there's sand. You just didn't know it was there. From your smartphones to the window of skyscrapers to even the walls of your house, it's literally everywhere. Sand is being used faster than it can be replenished. Its use has tripled in the last 20 years around the world. It's not sustainable and it's causing a problem. But if sand is everywhere, then how can there be a shortage? I'll admit, it's a hard topic to wrap your head around. Every time you go to the beach, there's always plenty of sand to bury your toes in, right? But the sand crisis is a classic example of the tragedy of the commons, where everyone is incentivized to continue using the resource for their own gain, even if it means overconsumption and depletion. One of the hard things about this problem is that the problem manifests in very different ways in very different places. For some people, like Kiwan Pereira, the founder and author of sandstories.org, sand mining and shortages are no surprise at all. Kiran, who's from a mining community in Bangalore, South India, grew up always hearing about the rivers being decimated because of sand mining. Yet she saw hundreds of trucks filled with sand racing into the city to aid in the construction boom that happened there. It's not just a shortage in the construction market that needs to be discussed, but the shortage in the natural environment. Construction has caused a steep increase in the demand for sand, but where's that sand coming from? Our oceans and rivers is where. The thing is, there just isn't enough sand in the coasts, oceans and rivers to support the booming construction taking place all over the world. Sand made from water is more valuable than desert sand, because the wind that erodes sand in the deserts makes it too smooth and it doesn't bind together as well as sand eroded by the water. So sand is extracted from the seabed, coastlines, quarries and rivers because it's more angular and binds together better. And it's important that the sand can bind well, because it's a key ingredient in cement and concrete. And concrete is made up of about 65 to 75% sand and gravel. And then there's glass, which is sand, gravel and rock crushed together or melted down to make the glass for electronics, like your laptop, tablet or smartphone screen. Glass is about 70% silica sand, and there are limited places with the specific types of sand needed for very specific uses. Even silicon computer chips use sand. The extraction of marine and coastal sand is impacting the environment too. Think of it like this. The sand at the bottom of the ocean has microorganisms that live in it. And there are fishes that eat those microorganisms and bigger fish that eat those fish, and on it goes. But scraping sand off the seafloor disrupts that entire ecosystem. Sand is the most extracted resource in the world, far surpassing fossil fuel extraction. Actually, even oil and gas extraction uses a lot of sand for things like fracking, and yet the sand problem is still largely ignored. We don't think about sand as a finite resource, so we're just using it unsustainably and wasting it. But in 2019, a report was submitted to the United Nations Environmental Assembly that worked to help make a resolution on global mineral governance that was adopted by all countries. Thanks to that resolution, countries all over the world finally began to recognize the sand problem. We will always need sand, so we need to be much wiser in the way we use the resource. But the problem with that is that it's not possible to really actively monitor global sand use. We don't have a deep enough understanding of extraction sites and extraction volumes. And we can't pinpoint exactly where the sand is coming from, where it's going to, or how it's being used. We do know that construction has the largest demand on sand though, so it can still be indirectly measured. The UN estimated that 4.1 billion tons of cement are produced every year. So if it takes roughly 10 tons of sand to create 1 ton of cement, that's 41 billion tons of sand and gravel being made every year. To put that into perspective, that's enough to build a wall nearly 89 feet tall and 89 feet wide to wrap around the planet every single year. And that's just for cement production. The demand for cement is driven primarily by China, where construction is booming. In the last 20 years, sand use has increased threefold across the globe, and more than 55% is being used in China alone. So, part of the problem is that some countries don't even have regulations in place. In these countries, any and everyone can just go to the beach and take as much sand as they want. It's completely legal and people take advantage of it. And in some parts of the world, there's even sand mafias. The sand mining industry is so dangerous that people are killed over it. The world is rapidly growing. Estimates say that by 2050, the world population can reach nearly 10 billion people. That creates a lot of need for sand in the construction of new homes and businesses and so many other areas. Africa's population is going to double by 2050. That means the expansions of cities and the use of lots and lots of sand. The thing is though, sand just can't meet that demand of 10 million people without effective planning and regulation. The sustainable sourcing of sand is more important now than ever. So, local governments and authorities absolutely need to have solid land and sand planning in place. They need to know where the sand is coming from and how much is being extracted. Governments need to plan ahead from now if they're to get through and deal with the sand shortages that will no doubt affect our futures. We need to work together collectively and try to come up with different solutions to the sand crisis because there is no one-size-fits-all solution. But finding alternatives to sand and recycling materials is definitely a step in the right direction. Our current economy is geared so much towards mining sand that it comes at an extreme cost to the environment and to society, but recycling things like concrete can help with that. We're used to just building things, and when we're done with it, we discard them as waste. And in that sense, we have a very linear economy. Changing to a more circular economy can be one significant solution. By keeping materials like sand in use for longer, we can reduce sand usage and sand mining. Doing environmental impact assessments can also help in understanding what places can be mined and how much can be taken out at a time. Sand is a finite resource. Every time we remove sand from rivers and seabeds, we're damaging ecosystems and destroying habitats. And we're also taking away from coastal security, because sand along the coastlines acts as a storm buffer. So extracting sand comes at a cost, one that we need to solve soon. Otherwise, we might be stuck paying for it. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please link and subscribe and watch these videos that might pique your interest. Thank you for your support.